sir.
Hey, Ricky, how you doing, man? Glad to be on your show. Thank you. And by the way, Tuskegee University is good, but it ain't Delaware State, you know. I want you to know. I'm prejudiced about Delaware State.
Yes, sir.
They got me off the ground way back when I started.
Yes, sir. Yes,
anyway.
Sir. No, man, I'm so excited about having you on. It's always a great time when you come on the show. The last time we spoke during your campaign for president, and you committed to making good on promises that are top priorities for, especially for black folks, you know, people in the black community, like student loan debt, nominating the first black woman to the United States Supreme Court, and marijuana reform. Now that we're nearly 2 years into your, presidency, what have you done to improve the lives of African Americans?
Well, I hope I've improved the lives of African Americans like I said I would do. For example, too many African Americans were denied everything from Pell Grants, student loans, housing, et cetera, because they were arrested for possession of marijuana. Too many. All whites as well. So anybody who was ever arrested just for the possession of marijuana, their record is expunged. They don't have to listen anymore, and it's going to free up a lot of opportunities. I've also made sure that we're going to provide for student debt relief. You have 70% of African Americans receive Pell Grants, and what I've done, I've forgiven loans of $10,000 for every eligible borrower, and an additional 10 if you had a Pell Grant. And those historic resources support. I've also put in $6 billion for HBCUs for a simple reason. You know, the students at black universities are extremely qualified as anybody at any other university, but because they don't have great endowments, they don't have these significant laboratories that teach the technical things that they need to be taught. And so this allows these universities to build these facilities so that now you graduate and you have the same training as you went to you went to Harvard or you went to any other state university. And in addition to that, I kept my commitment, and I'm really excited about the fact we have the first black Supreme Court justice,
yes,
Ketanji Brown Jackson, and she is really something else. You're going to be really pleased with her. I've appointed more female black Americans to the courts, to the federal bench than I can believe every other president combined. And so, look, there's a lot. And by the way, we now have a national holiday because I made sure that we're going to deal with what we said we were going to deal with. But the things that I think make the biggest difference, Ricky, that people haven't noticed, is not obvious, is, for example, on COVID vaccinations, I made sure that we went exactly where the black community is, so they weren't left behind. And so the percentage of African Americans receiving their COVID shots is as high, in some cases higher, than all other Americans, because I didn't want them being left behind. We went to their communities to make sure that the docs were available to give them what they needed. And so, with police, we restricted federally chokeholds and signed executive orders on no-knock warrants, but I still support funding the police. But we should be funding the police, particularly in black communities where we have more social workers. We have more people doing the kinds of things that are equipped the law enforcement to deal with things other than by pure force. And we have to hold cops accountable. But we need police officers. I'm not a defund the cops guy, but I am fund them and give them assistance that they need. Retrain them as to how they, in fact, are trained. That's all. I've provided the money to do that. So there's a lot going on. And I feel really, quite frankly, good that, and we're replacing every lead pipe in America, ensuring everyone across this whole country has good drinking water on the shores of South Carolina. Anyway,
right.
But so there's just a lot going on. I'm probably talking too much. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. You pretty much answering all of my questions because everything that you're saying was a question that I was going to ask. It's election season. We're like a few days out. What is your strategy to help elect Democrats? And, the second part question, what are we doing to get people excited about coming out to the polls and vote? Because the polls are tightening in important races like races in Florida, races in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. all over the country. Are the Democrats, do you think that everybody's excited?
Well, I think they are excited. I think I don't know for certain, and these polls are hard to read, but a lot of early voting, the estimates are there's a lot more Democrats early voting than Republicans. I hope that's true. And by the way, I want this to be a celebration like Juneteenth, I want this to be a big day. And one of the things you have to do is understand what the Republicans are going to do if they win. They're going to cut back on everything we've done. If you have a mom or dad on Medicare and they have diabetes, well, I've lowered the cost put a cap of $35 a month rather than $450 a month for them to be able to get their insulin. So they don't have to share it with anybody. They can have it. I'm going to make sure that there's insurance coverage for African. We reduced unemployment in the black community from 16% or thereabouts down to 5.8%. We got more to do, but I've made a commitment, and I made it because you followed it, that we're going to have my administration look like America. So we have more African Americans in senior positions from the head of the Defense Department on. And by the way, remember, I know you're a fraternity guy. Well, the Divine Nine. Well,
yes,
for the first time ever, the Divine Nine met back last year on October last year with for the first time the Vice President of the United States, who's part of the Divine Nine, I might add. And it's a matter of making sure that every black organization and the black community is treated as fairly as possible and has economic opportunity, because we still have a circumstance. If the developer builds housing development on one side of a highway, major highway, and is occupied by majority black, and on the other side of the highway, it's occupied by majority white, the same exact house will sell for somewhere between 15 and 20% less in the black community than it will in the white. And we got to change that. We're going to provide. We're providing startup funding for new businesses for Small Business Administration. I'm just excited about what more we can do as well. We've got to hold police accountable, but fund them. We've got to make sure that African Americans have the same chance everybody else does. And that's not happening until we got in office. It was a big change.
I've been watching your presidency real close, President Biden, and I have to say, and you pretty much answered everything I was going to ask. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for jumping on with us this morning and encouraging people to get out and vote. And we look forward to having you again right here on the Rickey Smiley Morning Show, President Biden.
As long as I'm around, Rickey, I'm here before you. But by the way, vote. It's important. Democracy is literally at stake here. I mean, it genuinely is at stake here. The HBC homecoming season across the country is going on now. No better way to honor the legacy of HBCUs than by voting.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all give it up and show your love right now for the President of the United States, Mr. Joseph Biden. Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Rickey.